Port Beach Elementary Charter. And Shenandoah Middle School down in Miami, a peak gust of 47 miles per hour, and that storm is still a long way away. So what's it going to mean for the East Coast? Well, first of all, of course, this is up until tomorrow night. So this is before landfall, the 9 to 12-foot swells up and down Florida's East Coast. That, of course, is going to create quite a storm surge. Secondarily, the squalls, the very strong thunderstorms, the possibility for tornadoes that will come on shore before the storm makes landfall. Obviously, very dangerous, and that's just before the hurricane force winds come on shore. Meanwhile, very quickly, oh, by the way, Ivan, a tropical storm out in the central Atlantic, moving westward, expected to get to Category 2 status in the next 5 days and move into the Caribbean. Here we go again.
The tropics is very active. If Hurricane Francis isn't enough for us, we now have Tropical Storm Ivan.
It's headed toward the Caribbean Sea, so here you can see the Lesser Antilles, the islands there. This is now a Category 2 hurricane.
Meanwhile, we're just kind of sitting pretty. We're going to see some sunshine for the next few days. Looks really nice out there, so enjoy it while we can, right? Because we do have Ivan.
Very symmetrical, good, well-defined eye. Here's where the storm is within relation to the U.S., so it's still very far away.
The big question for us is what happens after western Cuba?
Here's the latest look at the infrared satellite on Ivan, and it is still a monstrous storm.
Actually, it looks like the storm may even be getting a little bit stronger. Category 5 with winds of 160.
We're currently under a hurricane watch, though a hurricane warning, no doubt, will be issued here sometime today.
And that's going to bring some very strong, very powerful winds to the panhandle of Florida.
All right, here's the plan. We're starting right at this moment with continuous coverage of the hurricane. I would, at this moment, I think we're experiencing the calm before the storm because it's still relatively nice outside.
Right.
Regardless, it's going to be a major storm event, and we all need to be prepared, and we are here to help you do that.
Yeah, absolutely, and that includes evacuation routes. Shelters will also have tips and advice on how to protect you and your family.
Of course, they have told us that they plan to shut down portions of roads already because they are starting to see the water get very close to the roadway. One sheriff deputy told me that water is already on the road on Via de Luna, just east of the Portofino condominiums near parking lot 11.
A very substantial storm surge is expected in places like Okaloosa Island, where as of 10 o'clock this morning, the water is already smacking up against the dunes.
This, of course, is a live picture from the Hardee's beach camera on top of South Harbor. And I mean, boy, what a difference. Just a little while ago, looking out there, things looked very calm. They look anything but calm now. The Gulf of Mexico looking extremely dangerous. It is and will be for the next few days. And we're talking about rainfall for the next 36 hours or so, maybe even 40 to 42 hours. Again, as much as 15 to 20 inches possible in South Alabama and Northwest Florida.
We're here on Navarre Beach, and the rain is coming down pretty hard right now. It's coming down pretty steady as well. The wind is blowing, a steady breeze is picking up, as you can see. But look at the Gulf behind me. This is what the Emerald Coast looks like now. It's pretty nasty out here. Take a look at the pier down there. The waves are crashing high way above that pier.
But of course, the reason why we were out here because early this morning they started seeing some flooding out here on Via de Luna, and you can see right behind me where sand and water has already come ashore, and we are seeing this all along Via de Luna.
Millions of people are preparing and readying for what looks like a after midnight landfall. You know, if you look at the track that Catherine gave and what everybody's the latest figures at 4 o'clock. Had 125 miles to go, and at 14 miles per hour. You're looking at about 9 hours from 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You're looking at about 1 a.m. Landfall for the eye.
We're over here at Navy Point, and the water surge is starting to come up here on the road. As you can see, it's come over the banks, and it has come here on the road. This is Boblitz Drive. It's coming on the road. Some people that are still in the area are trying to get out.
As we go from that live shot you see of the Gulf Coast in Pensacola with our city cam, we're going to go to space for our next shot and give you an idea of what this looks like. Okay, now what this is, the International Space Station passed over Ivan at 5 o'clock our time.
I agree. On the other hand, it looks like it's definitely grew in strength since yesterday. The eye is much more pronounced, and the storm does look bigger. So there's always hope that it'll weaken as soon as it gets close to land.
The winds are between 130 and 140 miles an hour, and They've been hopeful that it'll weaken to Category 3, but it's certainly a strong storm.
We are under there somewhere.
As you can see, some portions of the International Space Station in view itself, with Hurricane Ivan in the background.
This is Scambia Bay here at Wayside Park. The surf is up, the surf is breaking over the wall here, over those fence barriers out there. The wind is driving. It's almost coming in horizontal on us right now.
What we call the T on that fishing pier is gone. And that's really taking a pummeling now. We're very concerned about erosion at Navarre Beach as Ivan gets closer and closer.
Feedback is I'm getting reports from as far away as Jacksonville is that the Channel 3 coverage of the pier and the activity out there, and I think it's been fed on the Weather Channel and other locations, is really transmitting the picture of what's going on, and people are valuing that an awful lot.
Just in the last 15 minutes or so, I think the wind speeds have increased to about 30 miles an hour, 35 miles an hour actually, and we actually went closer to the bay. We're up here by I-10. We went closer to the bay and we maxed out, got a maximum wind speed of about 44 miles an hour, so there's no doubt that Ivan is on his way.
A little technicality here.
Yeah, you got a lot of information to process, a lot to gather, and a lot to look at. We were looking at a live picture just a second ago from our city cam, I believe. I'm not sure what direction Byron, our director, was pointing in, but that flash apparently looks like another transformer exploding.
And that's what we're trying to tell people. It is absolutely unsafe to be out there at this point.
You can only imagine what it's going to be like when the winds reach a real hurricane force. So this is a very dangerous place. A lot of people are getting out of here, and I think that's the safe thing for everyone to do, including ourselves.
It's washing across the sidewalk here, and it seems to have caused this part of the sidewalk to buckle and to wash out part of the lawn here at the visitor center where we're standing.
Right now, as you drive through Pensacola, it's just water and little bits of trees flowing everywhere. Reporting from Pensacola Junior College campus, Dan Thomas.
And Dan Thomas has a few storm stories to tell as well. What have you seen?
Well, we went downtown right at daylight as soon as we could reasonably get out of the station after the storm had hit. This home was just an amazing story. A lady got out of it around 1 a.m. She sought shelter in her car, her and her grandson. She ended up surviving without a scratch.
Then the whole house started rocking. The whole house started rocking and shaking. I said, Mom, we got to go.
And by the time I come through the kitchen, the top went off, and here come one of them by the side down on my head. I just pushed it back, and we came on out the house.
So we made it out to the car, and it was 1:30, and we stayed in the car until 7 o'clock this morning.
During your talk with Dan, we're just rolling more and more video of the amazing situation
The site
that we
of
live
the
in.
Marina Oyster Barn,
Yeah.
I think that's one of the most compelling for me. Not that it all isn't, but that one site, it's hard to believe.
The emotions are difficult, certainly, for all of us.
Well, reporter Steve Nissom has been in the 9 Mile Road area of Escambia County today. Did you see the same kind of situation there that we've seen in other parts?
Yeah, very similar, Sue. There's a lot of trees in that area, beautiful trees, and a lot of them are down now. We went in this Fox Run subdivision, and there are just huge trees just lining the road. It was hard to even get in there. We had to go off-road to get in there. A lot of folks were banding together already. They had chainsaws out, and they were sawing some of the trees to open up the passageway in and out. Some of the houses not very fortunate there. Some were, some weren't. Some had trees right through them, but everybody seemed to be okay in there, and that was the important thing. Then we went over to West Florida Hospital, and this was an unbelievable scene. One of the buildings over there, the medical center building, took a huge hit. I mean, a lot of the glass out, a lot of the side of the building just off. I mean, it looked like a bomb went off in there. And believe it or not, there were people in there at the time of the storm when it started coming apart, and remarkably, they were okay. But we were able to talk to a couple of workers there. They were in the building at the time of the hurricane when the building started to come apart.
We were on the 3rd floor lab, sitting in the waiting area, and the windows blew. Everybody started running back to the back of the lab. Next thing you know, we had water damage, a lot of flooding, structural damage. Our lab work can barely be done. We're just doing critical stat levels. That's about it.
Did everyone get out safely? I mean, it looks like, people could have got hurt in there.
They could have gotten really hurt. When the glass just shattered in, we just all ran, and luckily nobody was hurt.
Here you've got a shot of a boat over near the Shalimar Bridge. This was from Thursday's video. The Shalimar Yacht Basin is nearby, and obviously a lot of the boats came unmoored, or they busted loose, and you had some of them actually even hitting up against, looks like a sailboat there, hitting up against the Shalimar Bridge and causing some problems there. They also had down power lines all across that bridge, and it was closed for a while, but it's back up and open now. We want to give you a look at some of the houses right there at the foot of the Shalimar Bridge. Some serious, obviously, storm surge coming in off Garnier's Bayou, slapping up against these homes where the roofs are peeled off and some of the sides of the buildings peeled off as well. Here you see photographer Cam Johnson got a pretty impressive shot of what a downed power line looks like when it's still live. A police officer going by there from Fort Walton Beach, obviously make sure nobody's foolish enough to get close. I don't think that'll be a problem. The picture you're looking at here is Highway 98. I believe this is looking westbound near Hurlburt Field's flight line. You can see where Santa Rosa Sound came across, and somebody obviously made it about halfway and gave up. Now going back towards Fort Walton Beach, this is actually over near Liza Jackson Park in the city of Fort Walton Beach. There's somebody's very nice boat in a place that it shouldn't be. Further down the island, heading towards Destin, this is the south side heading towards Destin. There's the Gulfarium, the Okaloosa Island Gulfarium. I understand they didn't have the same amount of damage that they had during Opal. Not quite as bad as what I've been told initially, but you can see obviously the storm surge still laying in the streets as of Thursday. Now here's a good look at Highway 98, or what's left of Highway 98. As you look towards Destin, you can see where it's in between Choctawhatchee Bay on the north and the Gulf of Mexico on the south. And just like with Hurricane Opal, just essentially the water chewed up Highway 98. We understand as much as 1.5 miles of the highway was destroyed going towards Destin. But the governor was in town on Friday, and he told Okaloosa County officials, in fact, he pledged that he would do his best to get this road repaired just as quickly as possible.
Channel 3's Andrew McIntosh was allowed access so viewers could get a chance to see exactly what Ivan did to Gulf Breeze. And